here's some lessons and tips on how to play The Love of God, arranged by Lily Topolski. I'm Steve Howard, and if you wonder how I'm associated with Lily, I'm her grandpa, so I've taught her from when she was 3 years old, and taught her a lot of what she's learned. And so I'm going to show you some things that about this arrangement of The Love of God that hopefully are helpful for you. The first thing I want to talk a little bit about, I'm just going to briefly talk about, is if you got the music off of her website, which is available at lilytopolskimusic.com, you download it as a PDF, and you may either print that, or you might have it where you want to put it on a mobile device like a tablet, an iPad, or Google tablet or something like that. So what you'll probably need is some kind of music reader app. We use something called Fourscore, and that is that's only for iOS or Apple products. So if you got an iPad or something like that, then Fourscore will work. If you got an Android tablet, there are other music reading apps as well, and there are for Apple as well. But just choose whatever one works for you. But Fourscore has worked well for us. When you're reading it, you can put it on there, and of course, I don't know if you can see this, but it makes it so you can just tap on the screen to turn the pages. Now, I also have a device here that I use for turning pages, and it's a page turning pedal. So it's a Bluetooth or wireless pedal that you can step on, and it'll turn the pages for you. Okay, so we've got it set up so that the right pedal will move the page forward and the left pedal will move the pages backwards. So that's a handy thing to have so that you don't have to take your hands off the piano when you're playing, and you can just keep playing. It does take a little bit of getting used to coordinating your foot while you're playing the piano, but once you get used to it, it's not so bad. Now, getting into the music, one thing you'll notice with this song, and actually several of Lily's arrangements, she uses a lot of syncopation. And again, when I'm describing these things and teaching these things, you might say, "Oh, I already knew that," but I'm gonna go through them because it's just helpful for maybe those that may not be familiar with some of the terms and things that we're going to be going over today. So syncopation is basically where you are playing a lot of notes, maybe the melody, something like that, falls on the offbeat or on the end of the beat or the second half of the beat. So you'll find this a lot in this piece, and songs like "He Leadeth Me" and "Come Thou Fount." Those are some other songs that Lily has arranged, and that sheet music is available as well for. But you'll notice, and if you're not used to playing a lot of syncopation, it might take a little bit of getting used to, because it's a little different feel, but you want to make sure that you're doing it accurately and not straightening out the rhythms or putting the notes on the beat like I've heard some pianists do. Like for example, if I go to measure 11, okay, one, and I'll count out loud so you can kind of hear where those fall. The end of the last half of the beat on measure 10 will be going into measure 11. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. So you'll notice a lot of those chords fall on the end of the beat or the second half of the beat. So if you're not used to practicing that or playing with syncopation, a metronome is a helpful thing to have. You can do it slower, so especially if you're not used to it. I would recommend, just doing it at a slower speed until you get the feel of it. So let me just play this with the metronome. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and Okay, so that's just a good, you know, if you're struggling with a song, the metronome is helpful. You might think, oh, I can't play with the metronome, it's so hard. And but if you do it slowly, you know, and just count it out like that. You know, most people don't like to count out loud while they're practicing, but it really does help to do that, because it kind of tells you exactly what note falls on what beat. Okay, because that's important to be aware of when you're practicing and playing the song. Okay, because some people, when they look at it, they think, I'm just going to play it like I hear it. I'm not going to shouldn't have to count. Not the best practice to do, but you know, so making sure you know exactly what note falls on what beat, especially with this one. The left hand is often doing different rhythm than the right hand, so that when you're playing, you know, you want to know which left hand or which beats the left hand notes fall on, and which beats the right hands fall on. So the next item I want to take notice of is this run right at the beginning. Okay, it's the pickup beat at the beginning of the song. It's basically a scale. Okay, it's really an A flat scale, though it starts on C and ends on C. But the flats in the scale are the ones of the A flat scale. So really, it's starting on the third note of the A flat scale, and it's ending on the third note of the A flat scale. So, and the reason for that is because the first note of the melody of the introduction falls on C, which is the third note of the A flat scale. So that's the reason it's like that. Now, if you ever wondered, you know, why do I have to practice scales? Why does my piano teacher make me play these scales and practice them? This is why. Okay, because you've got a lot of songs, and this song actually has another scale run toward the end that we're going to talk about a little bit later on. And if you struggle with it, again, just go slowly with it. Okay, and when you look at the notation of it, you look at it, and it's a bunch of eighth notes with the number 7 above it. Okay, if you don't know what that is, basically it's supposed to be so that you play all 7 notes of the scale in one beat. Okay, so if your beat's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, there it is. I'm playing the right notes. And so forth. So and if you can't get it quite that fast, this particular item you can take a little bit of freedom with, maybe play that scale just a little bit slower, and then come into your speed as you go. But if you practice it and work, you know, just start slowly and gradually work your speed up, you know, you should be able to get it hopefully up to speed. Another thing to be aware of with this particular piece, and of course with any song that you play, is make sure that you're bringing out the melody of the song, because in this song especially, there's a lot of stuff going on in the right hand that isn't melody. Okay, so you want to make sure that the melody notes are played louder, obviously, than the non-melody notes. So, you know, really emphasize the notes that fall on the melody line, and then pull back or play quieter the notes that aren't melody. Let me just use, like for example, I'll go to the second page, measure 23. I'll start on measure 22. Okay, so all of this stuff here, the melody is. Okay, so that's basically the melody. I might have added an extra note in there, but all the rest of the notes that the right hand is playing are not melody. Now, of course, if you're playing a chord with the melody, then you know those notes can be played equally. But any chords or notes that are between the melody notes, you want to make sure that you play those a little bit quieter. Let me do that one more time. And so forth. So that's one thing to be aware of. And if you're not used to, being conscious of that as you play other songs, that's an important thing skill to develop, to be able to, figure out. And what happens is when you're playing the song, you're hearing that melody in your head, and so that's where you can really, know what should be emphasized. And again, practicing it slower if you're not used to it, to kind of get the feel of it. And in time, it gets easier. So the next thing we want to talk about a little bit is what are called grace notes. Okay, if you're not familiar with grace notes, if you look in your music at measure 9, there's this little note smaller than the other notes on a B flat there that comes right before the notes that are on beat 1. Okay, and what that is that's just a little note that's going to be played right before the beat. Okay, so it's kind of almost played at the same time, almost played together, but it's played just a little bit slightly before, like this. I'm kind of emphasizing it, but it's almost played together, but just slightly before the beat, so that the notes of the chord, the E flat and the C, will still come down on the beat. Okay, so if I start at measure 8, just coming into that. So you saw there was another one on measure 9 there, and of course you got another one on measure 15. So you've got several of those throughout the song. You see them on the next page as well. And again, when you play those grace notes, you don't want to play them too heavy. You want to it should be just kind of a light touch. You don't want to make them too loud or accented. So just a light touch on those. The next section I want to talk a little bit about is going to page 3, starting at measure 43. Now, up to this point in the song, in the music, the left hand and the right hand have been fairly busy, fairly active, very rhythmic, going along, and a lot of stuff going on. When you get to measure 43, the feel changes. You'll notice in the left hand, rather than playing mostly eighth notes, you'll go to, at least starting in measure 44, you've got all whole note chords. Okay, so a lot less going on there, and I'll kind of demonstrate how that feels. Now, when you get to that point, it doesn't marked in the music, but I kind of quiet down slightly, just because it is a little bit of a different feel. You could slow down a slight amount, but it's not necessarily. If you change your volume, and just the fact that there's not as much stuff going on, it's going to change the whole feel of the song. So I'm going to go start measure 40 here, so if you're following along. Back to the same feel as you had at the beginning of the song, with a little more active in the left hand. But for those two lines, it's just a little bit different feel. So make sure you get a little quieter there to kind of emphasize the different feel that you got. Now, one thing I do want to point out, you've got I don't know if it's called a trill or just it's like two grace notes. This is on measure 47. Okay, and that's, again, you'll play those just a little bit before the beat. So if I go into measure 46, so the chord, you want that to land on the beat, and then those two, the A and the B, will be played right before the beat. And so forth. So that's the change of feel at measure 43. Another run, what we've got here, is at measure 74. Now I feel like this section, 74, 75, and a couple measures after that are really the hardest parts of the song. At least they were for me when I was learning and practicing the song. For one thing, there's 16th note runs, so you got to, and you've got and it's a little bit longer run than just the one scale run. It's basically two octaves rather than just one octave. So you want to make sure you finger that correctly. So that's a 2-octave G scale. So again, the fingering is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you'll end on 5. So if you find that difficult, like I did, just take it slowly. You know, there again, the metronome is helpful to get you to start at a slower speed, but still in rhythm, and then gradually increase your speed, with which the metronome is really helpful for doing that. At the end of that run, on measure 75, you've got a rolled chord. Okay, now this usually rolled chords are rolled from the bottom to the top, so like this. Okay, but these are different. If you haven't seen these before, these are a down rolled chord, so it's got the arpeggio going down. And so in the way it's notated, the difference is it's got an arrow at the bottom of the arpeggio, or the little squiggly line, if you weren't sure what that's called. So you're going to start at the top of the chord and roll down. Okay, and when you do those, you want to do them as much as you can so that you end the rolled chord on the beat, which is a little bit difficult to do coming off of a 16th note run. Okay, so you kind of fudge it a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to play it slower so you can kind of hear what's going on, and of course that's will help me not to make mistakes too. So. Okay, so that's a slow version of that section. Okay, and I forgot to use my pedal to turn the page, but. Okay, so that's you got several more down rolled chords there at the top of page 5. So just be aware of those, and again, it's a little bit of a different, little different feel than you've got them when you're rolling the chords up. The next thing I want to point out is this diminuendo or decrescendo on measure 81 and 82. Okay, now this section, this little motif that she's got going there, this type of thing you'd normally, in most songs, you'd have a crescendo in that, which, because you're moving up, it's going to be this. Okay, because you're moving up, tend to do a crescendo there, but this is a kind of a unique one. Lily put in a decrescendo or diminuendo, however you want to say it, for those two measures, which gives it a little bit of a unique feel, because it's going into a little bit of a softer section. So I'm going to start at measure 80. So it's so just be aware of that. That's a really important element in the feel of that section of the song, so that you're getting softer through those two measures. Then the make sure when you get to measure 93, there's a little bit of a pause because it's right before you're going into a recap of the introduction. Okay, so if I start at measure 92, and there's a retard there too. So let me play it again. So there's a retard there. Make sure you're slowing down as well. And then it's like the intro. And so forth. So recap of the introduction there. And then at the last thing I want to mention are these rolled chords at the end. Now, if you don't know the arpeggio, or the little squiggly line next to the rolled chord, when you've got them in both the left hand and the right hand, like you've got on these last two measures, there's two different ways they can be notated. They can either be notated where you've got one arpeggio or one squiggly line on the bottom, and then a break, and then another squiggly line on the top. And if it's notated that way, that means they want you to roll both hands at the same time, like this. So you start both hands rolling at the same time. But this one has one continuous arpeggio line going all the way from the bottom to the top. And the way you're going to play that instead is start your rolled chord at the bottom and roll it all the way to the top. And then the same thing with the last chord. Okay, so that's something to take notice of when you're playing that. Make sure you're rolling it all the way from the bottom to the top. So the right hand won't start its rolled chord until the left hand is ending. So those are just some things that I wanted to go over and share with you about, and hopefully these things are helpful to you as you're learning this piece. Again, the sheet music is available on Lily's website, lilytopolskimusic.com. So hopefully you've been enjoying her videos on YouTube, and feel free to subscribe to her channel. And let us know if you have any questions. Leave comments and questions in below, and we'll be glad to help in any way we can.